What is going on, six speeders? It is a very, very beautiful fall here in the Midwest. So, you guys, I got some very, very sad news to share with you all. The Acura sadly had this happen to it.
Here's what happened right off the bat. I think everybody sees the gigantic crack right there, and it ends about near quarter of the way. All the paint transfer that happened, and the thing underneath the headlight, and of course this right there, which that's just a little bit of a gap. So people are wondering right off the bat, did somebody hit me? Did I hit something or hit somebody? And here's exactly what happened from my point of view.
So all you guys are maybe wondering what happened. So here's what happened. I walked out to the Acura, started it up, everything was all good. All of a sudden gave it a few minutes to warm up. I put it into drive. I got a call from my dad. He told me that there was going to be nice dinner once I come home because I worked so hard. I was like, awesome. We were going to have spaghetti, garlic bread, and pizza. So kind of like Italian theme. I was so excited. So I pulled over, talked to him in the parking lot, got off the phone. Then I yield right. Right in front of my workplace is a side road, which is 45 miles per hour. There's 4 lanes of traffic, 2 going one way, the other 2 going the other. I was so excited. All of a sudden, I look over, and there's this Honda Accord with her hazards on going backwards. I lay on my horn, and I know everybody said this. Why didn't you just simply back up? I was going to, but there was another car right behind me, so I was kind of trapped. All of a sudden, bam, she backs into my bumper. I laid on my horn and everything. And then I stopped the car. I'm just like, okay, I put the car in the park. I'm like, okay, what is she doing? She drives off. So I put my car down into drive. Luckily, she didn't go too far. She just went about 50 feet. She stopped with her hazards on. I stopped right behind her. I literally got out of my car, ran out to the window, knocked on it, and it was an elderly lady. I said, hey, are you okay? What's going on? She's like, here's my insurance card. And she says, I got to go. I looked at her. I said, no. I said, you're not going anywhere. I said, first of all, we got to check if you're hurt. And I said, secondly, we got to get a police report. She's like, well, I got to go. I looked at her. I said, I had somewhere to go to tonight, to go home to a nice dinner. I said, you're going to stay put. Note of advice to anybody. Always get a police report. You don't always know if that person's who they are, who they say they are, and even if they're insured. One of my good friends got inside his car, started it up. He was late for work, so he drove off as fast as he could. Next thing you know, somebody rear ends him head on, hits him head on. Clearly, he was stopped at a stoplight. They got out of the car, expected the damage. The guy's like, don't worry, I got insurance. We don't need no police report, because they both had places to go. One of my good friends was late for work. I think the other guy had somewhere to be. So they exchanged information, everything good like that. So he goes up, calls the insurance company. The insurance company first asked, do you by chance have a police report? He said, no, I don't. They're like, okay. They're like, who was the person that hit you head on? He named him off. They said, oh, he dropped his insurance about 2 months ago. My friend looked at the person. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, so what can you guys do for me? They're like, we can't do nothing for you. You would have to call this up to your own insurance company and use your own deductible. I talked to him on the phone a few months ago before my accident happened, and he said flat out, he says, whenever you get hit, he said, I don't care what you have to do. If you're late for work, if you got somewhere to be, he said, get a police report. He says, most of these insurance companies are requiring it, and he says, it will just make life a whole lot easier to know if somebody's insured or not. So I took that lesson. So going back to move inside my Scion because it's a little bit loud outside. Most of my neighbors are doing yard work and it's pretty windy out there. So going back to my story, after all said and done, after I was done checking up on her, making sure that she was all right mentally, physically, and everything, she wanted to stay put. She's like, we'll just wait here. You can call the cop, get the police report and everything. I'm looking at her like, ma'am, we knocked it down to 1 lane of traffic. I said, we're now a hazard, So luckily I was able to convince her to pull back into the parking lot. I called up the police to get the police, them to get on their way to write up a police report and everything. And then after that, I called up my family. My family showed up before the cops. And then 30 seconds later, the cops showed up and everything. But it was a huge, weird show, because not every single day that somebody who missed a turn decides to go reverse on a freaking 2-lane side road of 45 miles per hour and everything. So the first thing that the cop did, he showed up, he made sure that we were all right and everything, and he said, okay, so what's the story? We told him the story. He looked at us like we were speaking a different language. He's like, so somebody was backing up on a side road? He's like, this is the first ever time I heard of this on this road here right outside. He's sitting there, and she's like, I was stupid. She said, I wasn't thinking, so I decided to go into reverse with my hazards on to go back to the stoplight. He looked at her. He's like, okay. And he looked at me. He says, you got this all on dash camera, right? I shook my head, yes. He's like, good. He says, the problem is a lot of people want to switch up their story 24 hours later so that way their insurance doesn't jump up and then they can come back and bite the person that they hit or anything. I sat there, I'm like, okay, that's good. So after that, it took about 20 to 30 minutes to write up the police report, write up the statement, just to make sure that we are who we say we are, make sure that we're insured, making sure that there's no warrants or anything like that. So it took about 30 minutes. I talked to the woman. She was all right. That's all that mattered to me. But then I started to really realize something. I said, if you don't mind me asking, I said, what type of phone do you have? She yanked out an old style flip phone from when it was made back in like 2006 to 2010. I'm just sitting there like, okay. And she drove a 2008 Accord. She had no GPS, no nothing. And I kind of felt bad for her. And in my head, I'm just like, if I was one of her family members, the first thing I would do is make sure that she's, well, first of all, making sure that everything is all good mentally and physically, and to make sure that she has something to tell her where she's going. Because, you know, nowadays we have the technology for everything. So after that, the cop said, okay, you all are free to go and everything. And as I was driving, I started to realize that the Chrysler 300, that Chrysler 300 swapped. So there's two, out in my parking lot, there's one way to go left and one way to go right. He decided to switch it last minute, right after I got front clipped. He decided to switch it so then that way he didn't have to stay a witness. On my way home, I was kicking myself because I wish that my dash camera caught him. Because since he was right behind me and since that she decided to pull up forward, I sadly didn't get the license plate or anything off that Chrysler 300, so I was kind of kicking myself. Well, after that, what I did was I went home. I enjoyed the nice dinner. I was kind of just a little bit mentally shaken up because I'm just like, well, I was kind of shaken up, not really scared to drive. It's just like, okay, whenever I always go exit my workplace's parking lot, I'm always double looking before I fully secure to yield right, you know, because I'm just always afraid somebody will be backing up. But the first thing I did whenever I got back home was I called up the insurance company to get the quota started and everything. Right now, I just got done talking to the insurance adjuster, and hopefully everything will be fine, and I can, you know, get this thing fixed and everything. But to all those people that drive nice cars and everything, you know, car community or anything, just remember that we all need to drive safely. Don't text and drive. Just, if you don't know where you're going, just always find a secure parking spot or a secure lane to turn off into, to dial in whatever you need to do because, you know, texting and driving is deadly. I had several friends that sadly lost their cars due to it. I even had a few friends that got hit head on by a drunk. I even hear stories about from my coworkers, and it's just scary. So if you ever do decide to get buzzed or anything, just make sure to always call up an Uber or a friend because, you know, it's rather get there safely than costing you somebody else's life or worse, your own life. So always do that. And hey, if somebody's texting you nonstop and if it's really, really important, pull over, send the text, or sometimes just throw the phone into your back seat. That's what I do. If somebody's blowing up my phone, I throw it into my back seat because you know what? My focus is on driving. I don't like multitasking because that gets too much for me whenever I'm driving because, hey, it's a death game out there. People have died, and hey, if we can prevent somebody from dying at the end of the day, that's way more important. Our cars could be replaced, but we can't. So I'll keep you all posted for the next video. I do huge shout out to the car community and to all my friends and family that were checking up on me. I'm A-okay. The woman's all right, and everything will be perfectly fine. I'm just happy that I always keep on reminding myself, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. You know, it could have been where my airbags deployed or where somebody was rushed to the hospital. Luckily, she only hit me about 10 to 15 miles per hour, if that. So that's all that matters to me. Huge shout out to all you guys. And I'll see you all in the next video. Drive safely and be safe.